Hey yo, what's up everybody? Dan Tom here, host of the Protect Your Neck podcast. Of course, this show here, we break down high-level MMA. That's what we're going to do here tonight. Whenever you're listening to this, hopefully it's before the fight. Recording this as usual Thursday night here live on the YouTube channel, Daniel Tom or Dan Tom MMA. At Dan Tom MMA with a little bit of underscores on Instagram, or at Dan Tom MMA as you see on the name tag here, and the artist formerly known as X. We're going to be breaking things down, of course, for UFC Vegas 81 from top to bottom. Check the timestamps if you're listening in the future. You can jump forward if you're listening live. I appreciate you. Hit the like button. But unfortunately, you're stuck with me in my normal format, which we will recap the weekend action before. A little bit of shouts in the live chats. Thank you guys for the likes. Feel free to throw questions in. Got the super chat and stuff turned on, but you guys know how it is. I'm just grateful to have you here. Do my best to answer your questions regardless. But yeah, if you want to donate, you will get priority. And of course, if you want to support this here free show, you can go to my website, mixedmartialanalyst.com, that hosts this show. You can click through On It or Amazon banners if you shop at those places, and basically click to mixedmartialanalyst.com. Scroll down, maybe look to or toggle to the right if you're on the mobile. And you can, of course, that was a shitty bane. You can, of course, click through. That's just 2 whole clicks, and then you just go through with your purchase at no extra cost. You will, be kicking back a percentage of your purchase to this here program, which helps. Or right above those links, or within the link trees of any of the associated profiles where you can find me at Dan Tom MMA. You can also find me on PayPal and the secure PayPal links on the appropriate sites and profiles there at Dan Tom MMA if you want to donate directly, which people have. I don't know why, but I appreciate the hell out of you, and I can assure you, as a guy who goes out a penny to do this stuff, it really does help. So appreciate you supporters. You guys know who you are, and a lot of you guys are already rolling into the chat. We got the enforcer in the house, my man Jimmy Kudo. Let's all be positive today. Dan is nice enough to give us his time, so we should be nice in general. Well, I mean, regardless of me, we should all be nice in general, so I definitely stand behind that and appreciate you, Jimmy Kudo, as well as the other enforcer in the house, my guy, my fellow analyst, Ghost. Of course, Ghost21. You see him on the screen there. Hi, Dan. Good to see you, man. Good to see you as well. And I think I need to give you guys another care package just for always being so consistent, even though I am not. I don't deserve it, of course. Rhea Southern Truesdale in the house. I'm excited to hear your Amazon reads. I'll pull those up. Yeah, I'll pull those up. Did I miss a week or 2 weeks? I'll pull up 2 weeks maybe just to be safe there. We'll see if we got any in the house there. I had some PS5 purchases, which was crazy. Look at my man with the plan, the MMA junkie radio alum, Raimundo Martin, one of the best in the business. I don't know about that, Raimundo, but I will take it from an OG like yourself, sir. Your opinion certainly matters to me. It matters here. So if you guys want to, add to your opinions, a lot of MMA news, a lot of stuff. You know me. I'll break down the card next week. If you care for my early opinions on these switch-ups for UFC, 290, 294, whatever the hell it is next week, you can ask me. But obviously, the main questions and the ones that'll be answered, especially once the breakdown starts rolling, I try to keep it on topic. Believe it or not, right? And I know my ass actually does try to keep things on topic. And we're going to try to do that as I sipping my 5th cup of coffee. I actually tried this thing called waking up early this morning. Obviously, that's getting cold. Obviously, well aware of it. This is a guy who used to work construction back in the day. We've all had to wake up early for school. This is not a new concept to anybody, or really it should be, right? Of course, there are many reasons. Some very legit, really do need my rest, but, I was just such a zombie yesterday, and I feel like I lost the day. I'm like, you know what? Instead of struggling and getting my second win at midnight and not getting to sleep till 4 a.m. like I do, I'm like, why don't I just try to go to sleep at 9? And then I woke up at midnight still, went back to sleep though. I didn't stay up. That was the key. And then I was up at 4 or 5 this morning. Got my articles done. Got couple bets in that I'm going to share with you guys here. Heretofore. Got a workout in. Lifted some weights, worked the bag. It was really nice. It's a privilege to be able to work out. And it is a privilege to have a place to work out in your garage. So I need to, I don't know if I need to, but I definitely keep reminding myself that And I'm grateful. It's not a chore. But things have been crazy. So hopefully you guys are doing well. Before we recap, I'm gonna do a whole separate review. I even got the thumbnail made for it and everything. Part of me is like, I probably dropped the ball. I should have got on it like last weekend while everything was going out there. But then I just saw like an LA Times article like just dropped today, and the lady was like at the same show, the premiere show that I was at on Friday. So I'm gonna do that for the Sphere for the Darren Aronofsky's Postcard from Earth. Just wanted to take a couple things off the top just so I don't seem like the boo-hoo I did in at least maybe in the initial tweet of the thread, because people only read the one tweet, or if they do, they don't really read the tweet and contextualize it. They get hurt in the feelings because they're like, what, he's saying something negative about billionaire person? What? No! Jano! And like I was trying to shit on it. Believe me, if there is any sports that can do it, it's probably combat sports, and in combat sports, it's UFC production, which you can call me a boo-hoo or negative on cards. Something I've kept the same energy on is giving credit, which I just did this very week, as I normally do, to wrap up Contender Series, to the unsung kind of UFC staff, the people behind the scenes. We like to shit on cards, or fans like to shit on fighters, or media likes to shit on, the UFC brass for Dana White's decisions. But like lost in that shuffle are like really hardworking people and stuff, and an amazing production that absolutely deserves the credit, from Zach Candido down. So believe me, man, if anybody can do it, it's UFC. But just the brash talk of like, I didn't see the U2 thing, but it was a complete different experience. And I don't want to say it's better. They're just two different ones, right? The live event and then like a movie film that like Aronofsky put on that we saw. And even within that, as cool as it was, there were things that like, which I'll talk about in the preview. Like some things, like Aronofsky said, it's pretty much like flying a plane while you're building it at the same time. It's such new technology. And you can see that because even though it was 18K, you will see that like not all the pictures look the same. And this is like pre-edited, highly produced, a video package, if you will, right? If we're trying to equivalate, make the equivalent to what we would see maybe in a UFC package. And even with just what they're projecting, it's not really the same consistent picture. Now they're jumping from crazy landscapes. The UFC stuff is pretty dialed in that regard, so maybe they don't face a consistency issue. But you have to ask the issue, what are you really bringing to the table then? Is it just like that thing where like football fans argue about Dallas Stadium, like, we got the biggest screen, and then people were like, yeah, but the screen's going to be outdated in here. And I got to imagine they've changed it or updated it since. I don't follow football. I'm not familiar with the Dallas Stadium. I'm just kind of referencing that argument that I am familiar with, where you're just like, okay, well then let's just say the screen is cool. Like, are you really paying the ticket you're just looking at the screen the whole time, Maybe you have a decent ticket, but the screen is so big and so good, you are looking at the screen over the live action. Now that's your own argument for you to have. I don't care to sway you one way. I really don't care what your opinion is on that sense, but it does bring up a logical kind of argument that regardless of my stupid opinion or whether you care about it, people will have when you have these things. And it's further exacerbated when you just have, are you underutilizing it if you don't utilize it? Like, with the wraparound, the depth. Again, it's not really meant for a singular focus, perhaps a follow focus, but again, you're having to talk about like real, like meta technology that I don't even think is quite there yet for what we saw with that, but you would have to be, outfit in the octagon with all that stuff. And even if you did, and if it worked fine, is that what you would want? You know what I'm saying? I mean, wouldn't you still want to be able to look down into the octagon? In the video that I posted on my Twitter at DanTomMMA, it actually looks more spacious. I was actually surprised. I'm probably going to shit on my own argument. But again, to be fair, to show that I'm not just trying to shit on like UFC or be Mr. Negative, like believe me, I love the Sphere. Like I want everything to be at the Sphere. If my work could go there, like I would find excuses to go cover these things in person. Believe me, like it would be a benefit if the UFC goes there. I'm excited to see what they can do. But when you have actual professionals in this field who have actually put on productions and have been involved with it for over a year's time now, like a Darren Aronofsky, saying we're essentially still figuring it out, to dumbasses like me can see what he's saying in their final product, for Dana to come out and go, we are going to put on the best thing that place and you guys have ever seen in combat sports ever. Like, I'm sorry, obviously that's hyperbole, so you're going to have to forgive me for treating it as obvious fucking hyperbole. You know what I'm saying? From what I heard, the show that I was at showed much more of the Sphere's capabilities than maybe a concert, even though it did definitely make the concert more elevated and awesome, which run into that problem, I think Bill Burr was saying in his podcast, The Sphere, and I get that, right? Especially from music to a live performance art, and that's essentially what they argued, it was designed for. And of course, people who hate the artsy type, the sports crowd, you say anything negative about sports, like, what the fuck? What the fuck's your problem? So when I just repeated something that people that actually have experience putting on those kind of shows and whatnot, said, you get a bunch of pushback. So I'm not trying to be negative, just explaining that, the logistics, even though I said the view actually looked better on my phone when you're there, it's much tighter than it seems. And there are massive blowers, it felt like you were just getting almost blown out of your seat. And I had, not trying to brag or whatever, I was second level, but pretty decent seats. And there was you saw it went way up there behind me. And I imagine those blowers are so strong, they have to have people clear out of the way. They couldn't have anybody on the floor if they're hitting all the way up to the top levels of the Sphere. I imagine that stuff's pretty hardwired in. But even if you move that out of the way, the further up you are, even though it's stadium seating, the view is real tight. Even if you're okay with that tiny view and whatnot, which I've been at UFC 200 where you just see the yellow octagon down there, and Brock Lesnar, you can make him out much better than a Jose Aldo, right? But it wasn't even those views. I don't believe, because that's not what it's designed for. So I'm not trying to shit on sports and ruin people's good time. Look at the glasses nerd. Okay, relax, folks. It's fucking cool, and hopefully, if you're in Vegas and have the occasion, the money, the time, whatever, I suggest checking it out. It's definitely fun, and just make sure you time your doses right. You know what I'm saying? Wink, wink. Oh man, it was a fun night. It was definitely a fun night. Whether you want to go with friends, have a date night, it's good times. So we got James Kendrick in the house. Hello, Chronic Combat Chronicle, Mike's MMA Picks, your show, and the two snarky analysts, Ghost and Jack Slack, are my go-tos. I appreciate that, and I love all those mentioned, man, and including you, James Kendrick. So thank you for popping in. We got Rain Lamon in the house. No funny pun. Just excited to listen to your breakdown so I can be a better MMA fan. Oh, I don't know about that, but I appreciate you, the kindness. Thank you. We'll get to that, but that pretty much ends it. I'll save the rest of the Sphere talk for the actual review. Just wanted to talk about that in relation to the sporting event talk and whatnot, right? So, we'll see what they can do. It'd be cool if they can. You know what I'm saying? We're coming off UFC Vegas 80 and Bellator 300. So when I saw Bellator, I'm like, why did I actually got a reverse sweep in Bellator. We still ended up with profit on the night by 4 units, over 4 units or so. People need to track, but the untracked was 6 to 7 was closer to because again, I usually just match my picks, but usually for slightly better odds and slightly different round robins when I go to the house after the podcasts are all wrapped, the plays are punched in and this and that. It's usually on fight day, maybe the day before if I have my ish together, right? This time I have to wake up early and get it in just before the fight, so that's why they are untracked. And those have been doing good, but again, they're untracked, so I don't really post those or really talk about those too much because it's untracked. Though I will say, usually when I do, it's because I'm dunking on a hater and or showing off the big tickets, which, if you've been following along, I donate to local animal shelters and vets here in town, which people still hate on, but it's what it is. So regardless of what I'm doing and how they're doing, I try not to talk about the untracked because people get pissed off even when you're trying to do nice things and showing it out of good faith. And posting your losing tickets, which nobody does when they actually post the tickets, right? So I try to make sure to always do that as well. And I only also bring up the untracked because not so much in person. This was online. So I ended up doing a last minute Bellator parlay because I realized after I did Bellator 300 stuff first, right? I started with Vassal and Bader, which was annoying because it got scrapped. And that hadn't happened to me in a while. not complaining. Was just looking at Vasil as that dog. So I was stuck with some chalky things to look at, and I decided to play totals, for just some small plus money, plus 120, plus 125. And they were 1.5 unit totals, which I am doing one this week, so maybe I didn't learn my lesson. But usually I don't do those. I'm not confident in totals, and 1.5 unit bets are big for me, despite, everybody and their mothers, throwing 5 and 7s and 10s. It's going out of style. All cool, not hating. I'm just saying, your boy here is much more conservative as far as betting goes in that regard, right? And again, I didn't even know what I was looking at for UFC because of the order I went. And once I both saw that I was seeing the board clearly for UFC Vegas and confident and firing away, and good thing I did, which we'll talk about here in a second. I also realized the time difference that UFC Vegas is starting early and Bellator is not like some random Irish card. So it was going to close the night. I'm like, uh-oh, that's not good. You guys, I love me some Bellator, but you guys know how it goes. Not just me, most people in the gambling space, we talk about betting Bellator. It's very dangerous. Very dangerous. Just as, not more dangerous than a PFL or Contender Series, you could argue. So that really made me nervous. So I added a 6 or 7 leg parlay, and I could show the screenshots and that it's not even that big of a deal, whatever. And again, I didn't even mention it at all in the timeline, so it's not like a let sleeping horses lie. But for you audience, I'll let you guys in. I ended up, I think it was still a loss for Bellator, but it was 2.56. Because I think I got, it was plus 156, and then I only put a unit on it. So you get your unit back that you play, plus the 156, so that's 256. It's still just under a unit loss for Bellator. And, if you want to add that in or whatever, that's, still, north of 6 units at least profit or whatever. But, of course, with the Sphere night and, not just going out and this and that, again, you lose time not just for the show, but there was it was a fun night, right? It was a fun night, and inebriation. You can forgive me perhaps for forgetting to plug in the play there. So since I didn't plug it in on my Action app, I didn't post it. It does not exist, so it didn't go on the record, and I took the loss in full as far as that goes. Bellator 300 kind of was crappy. For the billionth time, I've been saying it since I've been doing this analysis because it's one of the first lessons I learned back from my sport karate days. Is when you are faced with a teammate, you are not going to get a good matchup. Okay, whether it's a sparring match in class or you meet up in a tournament and it's for points and trophies and fun stuff, or even money, obviously, even more so. More health on the line, right? Less pads, all those things. Not going to make the timidity any better, yet people and promotions tend to forget this both alike from both sides of the fence. That's what you got with Carmouche and that. I didn't really watch it. As soon as my under missed on the main event, I stopped watching the Primus Nurmagomedov. I got bored. And then, of course, I had the over, but I knew it wasn't going to hit the way that first round was going, man. I love me some Kat Zingano, but that was bad. That was really bad optics. And I get it. The takedowns in her game wasn't working, but it just went into full panic mode where she just kind of shot into a turtle. And it had no chance of hitting that one. So yeah, we got a reverse sweep there. UFC Vegas 80. Sorry, I don't have much more. Shout out to my guy Kai Kamako, of course, getting the nod over Henry Corrales. I actually, shamefully to admit, I missed that fight. But UFC Vegas 80, we did much better. I'm not sure how we did on picks. We went 0 for 1, 1 for 1, 2 for 1, 2 for 2, 3 for 2. Cancel. 4 for 2. 4 for 3. 5 for 3. 6 for 3. 6 for 4 overall. Plus 7.53, just over 7.5 units. Profit. Straight plays, we did good. 3 out of 4. Of course, as I was tweeting, I texted my uncle to give my grandma the legendary Popodoro some betting tips, and she still remembered the Dubronx ticket that I cashed against Poirier for her. She was mad that I didn't bet enough, so I was like, all right, I'm going to give you the amounts to bet then, so you can bet with your big bucks or whatever. But I essentially just, I'm not trying to send her to the cleaners or whatever, even though my grandma does get crazy out there. But I was like, 150 on Algio, 120 on Urichi Lang, 100 on Glenn, and 100 on Demopoulos. And then my uncle's like, which one are you most confident on? I'm like, the one that told you to put the most money on, like Algeo. And I guess he only put money on Algeo. I didn't realize that. So when Demopoulos, which we'll get to, and Urichi Lang, the Mongolian murderer, hit, I was like, sweet, you already locked. So I texted him like, sweet, good news. First two plays happened, and they hit, meaning you locked in profits. So you can just sit back and collect some cash for the rest of the night. And I was like, oh, we didn't play those two. I'm like, why did you fucking play those two? I'm like, come on, man. I'm getting, it's not that my grandma is hurting for the cash, but it's more the point of pride. You know what I'm saying? Like, she fucking cleans up, all right, like in all the sports. So I gotta show my worth there. And then he ran to the ran to the window and added Glenn, which didn't do much, but was thankfully paid off for and still profited 50 because of the way they ended up getting Algeo, because Algeo got pushed. He got better odds than me, as most of you did if you listened to me and went with Algeo. He ended up getting bet down to even money, plus 100, right? And again, that was a theme I kept hearing, like, oh, I was scared away. The public money scared me away. The public money scared me away. What did I say on last week's podcast, folks? What did I say on the preview show with my guy, Aaron Bronstetter? What do I always say? I love being against the fucking public. I love fading those motherfuckers. Thank you. I'm not trying to shit on anybody who had Hernandez. I'd have people I respect on Hernandez. But come on, man. I was just like, it had me worried, but I was just like, going to the stylistic analysis, like, this is how that fight goes. And Algeo even fought kind of weird. He was, not that he doesn't fight back. I even said I think I used the word, you can kind of, meander a bit, or, so it's not that is even abnormal for Algeo, but he was less, not that he's a consistent pressure fighter. He's not the same guy as Billy Kulik we went over, but I thought he would pressure a little more, and he didn't. And Hernandez was, actively trying to manage his gas tank too and pacing. So you got kind of like almost like a fight between two guys who want to counter, even though when Hernandez, to his credit, when he was letting go, he did land some good ones, even though most of them were getting rolled with, which of course people don't realize, from professionals and pundits to the casual gen pop, and the fact that Bill Algeo is kind of a low-key grimace. He's really hard to kill. I don't know if he's really that killable, to be honest. So knock on wood here. Again, folks, it was my best bet for a reason. The prop squad round 3 misses and round 2 flyer, which I tacked on there as well. Because, again, the aforementioned deviation from styles, but the core of their styles and that analysis was correct enough, clearly, to cash what was my most confident bet, Bill Algeo, baby. We're gonna kind of jump out of order here, back to the main event. Bobby Green defeated Grant Dawson, first round KO. I felt dumb for just not picking Green because this is like the typical spot, And I'm blaming Bryce Mitchell for this because of that recent result. Even though there is an argument for Ige to still gotten it, despite the obviously clear arguments for Mitchell to the admitted mistakes that even Ige and his team come clean or trying to repair themselves. I do feel like that result still kind of swayed me away from these things, and that's kind of how I am. You guys know I tend to overcorrect the steering wheel naturally from those I like, opposite of most people who just homer every time. And they lose, they homer, they win. They're the fucking biggest geniuses, and they get the high of getting their homer biases to cash, which I'm not hating on. That is such a much more easier and rewarding way to live and be a fan of the sport. But I'm working in the sport and just trying to turn coin without my bias. So, I ended up picking against Bobby Green. Again, not just the small cage analysis, which, regardless of how you want to, keep harping on the Ige Mitchells of the world of those fights, whether the stylistic dynamic, how they're scored, or just me, again, back to me kind of trying to overcorrect the bias away from those I could be biased toward. But also Bobby Green, man, like, he's been getting rocked in recent fights, and since that fight with Jared Gordon, every time he makes weight, he has a weird, like, eye kind of twitch thing that's been going on. That's really weird, right? Even though he is, he's in that Masvidal phase. Like, this was his Masvidal, the what do you call it, the young veterans or whatever the trope is. Shout out to the heavy hands guys. I don't know what you call those guys when they get older, but I know Masvidal had that trope, and this is like Masvidal Askren. You know what I'm saying? Not the same level, not the same thing, but if we're going apples to oranges and trying to stick with the fruit kind of common thread here, I think that's where the common threads are. And that means, the bottom could drop off soon. So as much as I want to overcorrect and get back on my Bobby Green train, who's made me a lot of money, and in my defense, even though I did pick Grant Dawson, I said, listen, it's dog or pass. You should only be playing Bobby Green. I got a little too cute with it. With the Grant Dawson split decision was, I think, the only bet that I had on him, and the rest was Bobby Green decision. Bobby Green late round props. In my defense, Bobby Green does not really stop people in the first round. He had that Iaquinta stoppage, and then the weird headbutt thing with Gerald Gordon. But outside of that, you ought to go all the way back to the James Krause fight, which was a low blow called for a body kick. I love Bobby, but that's what that was, a fight for the troops card, right? So even the biggest and most ardent Bobby Green supporters, which I am, despite the pick, that result was definitely not expected. So when you have over plus 300, especially plus 390, practically 4-1, still no excuses. You should have just kicked for coverage, and I should have just sprinkled, especially on a winning night. I really have no excuses. In my defense, I will say I did preach dog or pass, so hopefully I didn't lead you guys the wrong way, despite what was my admittedly semi-reluctant for a reason pick on Dawson. And it also just reminds me of that thing where, again, not trying to shit on Dawson or even on Mitchell. Dawson can improve or whatever. But it's like that thing, it's like, no, these fighters are, I'll say it all the time, they are who you think they are, And even though, the result-wise I was wrong with the Mitchell-Ige, if you go back to the Mitchell-Topuria, which was one of those Twitter war gambling things where half the crowd's on Mitchell, half's on Topuria, it's like, no, this is a bad matchup. This is where the rubber hits the road. And, I know Bryce Mitchell was air quotes sick, but he was gassing the same thing against a less intense, a less active guy in Ige. And he was still gassing in quote-unquote full health, no excuses. So this could be something that has to do with Mitchell, back to my original point and thread that I'm trying to follow and I'm on here. If someone tells you who they are, you best listen. Or if you really believe something, maybe sometimes you should stick with that, And I've referenced this before. I think I shouted out old MMA analysis host, and I believe was also old Half the Battle co-host one time. Shout out to my guy Dan Levy, by the way. Half the Battle. He was smart. He remembered. Me and him were talking about Bobby Green, not even back in the day so much, but during his pandemic run. If you watched our Lineman Movement show, me and Dan were all over that. I know I was a really big Bobby Green flag supporter, and Dan would give me the credit. So allow me to give my guy Dan Levy the credit right back for having the balls and the smarts to just kick for coverage, play that Bobby Green money line, even if it was just a unit. That was a big return. So yeah, man, grats to people, just not listening to the crowd. Again, don't listen to the crowd. Don't listen to the hype. Again, that stuff will get you. Just stick to what you think. Bobby Green has always been good, like I thought, and not that Grant Dawson is bad, and not that he can't be better. I'm not saying those things, but I will say Grant Dawson ended up being who I thought, and yeah, I had the Heartbreakers with the Leo Santos, where we were on the way cashing those veteran dog odds, right? And then he gets KO'd at the very end, killing his streak, right? To the Ricky Glenn, where I was on a fucking island, which we'll talk about Ricky Glenn, and I deserve to be on an island for now on with Ricky Glenn, but it was practically finishes him at the end there. Joe Pfeiffer defeats Abdulrazak Al Hassan via submission. I feel like I can't brag too hard because I feel like all the homies were on this one. We were aligned for this one, thank God. And it cashed. So props to everybody who made that logic. Again, it wasn't too hard to figure out. You watch Joe Pfeiffer, you just got to watch outside of his recent fights and look at the trends of what he's been doing outside of the octagon, who he trains with, so on and so forth, and what his actual grappling base is. So we get the submission. We were 35 seconds away, it looks like, even though I'm pretty sure it was like a minute 99. So it was I thought it was under 30 seconds, but pretty much 30 seconds away from missing the over. We still cash anyways with the sub, which paid way better than the over. So if the over was going to miss, I was hoping it was Pfeiffer by sub, so we got very lucky there. I know everybody was on it, but this game's got a lot of luck to do with it, folks, and I will gladly and gratefully accept and admit it. Joaquin Buckley defeated Alekseeva-Dixon via unanimous decision. I think my guy AB, Aaron Bronstetter, had that prop as well. Shouts to my guy Aaron Bronstetter. Drew Dober defeated Ricky Glenn first round TKO. That was how the fight was going to go. I should have stuck with my initial lean there. I think that's what I told you guys I was leaning to on the podcast. Then I went back to watch the tape and got swayed with the odds, and obviously I picked the wrong vet dog to last minute back. It should have been Bobby Green, which technically I did, just the wrong way. You know what I mean? As far as just kicking for coverage, because it was another good money line. Not even as good as the Bobby Greens, and I still kicked for coverage with it with the plus 330 Glenn. I think I had him by submission in the round robin, so I didn't lose too much extra there. Of course, Bill Algeo defeated Alexander Hernandez, we already talked about. Felipe Lins versus Iwan Cutelaba was canceled, which sucked. That was my unofficial round robin that I do at the counter where it only lets me take dogs. So Lins was on there. We still ended up paying off that ticket, obviously, because we... who the fuck did we... Oh, yeah, we put Bobby... Oh, I did have Bobby Green on that, so that hit. Again, unofficial, so I can't, I can't be talking about that, but that hit with... we'll get to it in a second. Karolina Kowalkiewicz defeated Diana Belbitsa. Happy for Kowalkiewicz. Hey, 1985. I should have done... Damn you, Liz Carmouche. Why do you have to be born in 84? You ruin everything, Liz. With your snuff film walkout. No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah, we had Cyborg and Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Audio listeners, I'm rocking a 1985 shirt, so I just had to pop that up. Nate Manas, ass to ass. Whoever, shouts to the listeners who correctly said that is correct. That is a reference to Requiem for a Dream. Speaking of Darren Aronofsky, ass to ass. All right, Dan, easy. I actually missed that fight. Madonka-donk. Vanessa Demopoulos defeated Kanako Murata via unanimous decision. I thought the Japanese girl was going to get it, but again, that was based off of me overcorrecting the steering wheel against my bias rather than, just seeing it through my green-colored glasses and being like, of course, my bet, that's who I scored it for. Believe it or not, I try to stay objective, and even though I had a hankering and was with my guy Aaron Bronstetter as far as, maybe not how he scored round 2, even though maybe you could say that because I thought she was going to get it, right? But as far as, hey, man, careful. It's not like she was passing to even half guard, much less taking any backs or going for submissions. And those weird, double-fisted punches didn't, you're punching at the same time, you're taking away power and impact. And obviously the judges saw that and saw more impact, which I know was caused from a clash of heads, but the elbows made the cut worse, also opened up a second cut. And you can even see by the time they're raising her hand, forget the cuts, there's actual bruises. There was damage from those elbows. That's something that from her cornerman, my longtime coach, Dennis Davis, I know they've been actively, when I asked them about what they're doing in regards to criteria education and bringing that into their coaching, I think I asked him last year. This was one of the things he brought up as far as being on bottom, obviously getting up, teaching how to get up and this and that, but attacking, putting a big emphasis on attacking and elbows, using the guard to land elbows, not just being taught in-house, but even bringing people from the outside who are also familiar with the criteria coaching and scouting, like Dean Thomas, who did a special lesson for the pro practice, I believe, last year, focusing on these elbows from the guards. So, say what you will, I still think she should have gotten up at certain points, and in the corner's defense, they were consistently floating that messaging out there, but Demopoulos obviously is going to Demopoulos and do her thing. So if she was going to do her thing, they also wanted to make sure that they kept giving her positive direction there as far as the striking and scoring, which ended up unanimously getting her the win. So I will take it. Even though you can justify it, I am not going to kid you guys. I am absolutely grateful. Like I said on the tweet, on fight day, I am very lucky. And I don't get it twisted. Very grateful for that. Apologies if you were on the other side. And then, of course, Richie Long, the Mongolian murderer. I think that's catching on. Saw my guy, Big Gun Brian Petrie. Shout out to him. He kills it on Anik Florian. He was doing his own Richie Long, the Mongolian murderer. Give that guy a follow, by the way. MMA Takes. He defeated Johnny Munoz. Not Big Gun Brian Petrie. Richie Long did. Fucking made it sweat a little bit more than we needed to, not squaring off with the hips and really basic stuff. But hopefully the coaches at Fight Ready saw that and know what to work with them. I'm glad I stayed away from this one because, again, public money was wrong because JJ Aldridge defeated Montana De La Rosa. Tough showing for Montana, though. I thought she was going to grapple more in defense of Montana De La Rosa backers. She was my official pick, so don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to be Mr. After the Fact over here. But yeah, that was a excuse me. That was a good night. So what time is it? 35:01. Let's go. Let's finish recap. Let's go chat. Next, clean up the chat and we'll get to this breakdown, folks. Excuse me. Oh, Mark Fellow's in the house. Nice. Ever been to a pharmacy in Thailand? Let's just say it's a USADA free zone. Connor would love it here. Oh, yeah. I've heard of that. But I also heard they decriminalized the greenery, which is another reason why it's very appealing to your boy here. I hope you're having a good time over there, Mark Fellows. I'm following vicariously through you, my brother. I need to get on it and message some people, and including maybe some people from Bangtan Muay Thai, my guy JHK, to see if I can maybe go train there. That would be cool. Jack Slack Timestamp Podcast. Hi, Dan. Timestamps and shows always professional. Thanks to you, sir. My man over there. Appreciate you. James Kendrick. I don't know anything about betting, but would it have been a good idea to throw away the Bellator bets after having a winning night? It would have, but like I was explaining, I did the Bellator bets before I even researched UFC, which is why the amounts were so big. I didn't know I was going to go so big on Bellator, so I researched them first, and on a timeline. There's an actual word for that I'm missing here. I'm stupid. Forgive me. Bellator happened after James Kendrick, so yeah, I was stuck with those bets. I was stuck sitting on those bombs, man. I was freaking nervous. I had a feeling that was going to happen, so that's why I was extra glad to have a decent night on UFC. Jin Karasu, I'm so happy for you on the Demopoulos bet. I was so excited to see her beat Marotte because Weird Risen fans kept saying that she would have beat Weili in 2018. Yeah, I'm glad you guys mentioned that beforehand because that point makes you guys look even better for that and makes them look even more silly for anybody that floated that out. Jin Karasu, oh yeah, and here's another fun fact about Vanessa for you. She's good friends with Weili. Nice. In an interview, she helped Weili around in Arizona when she first got there in 2021. That is really cool. I did not know that, Jin Karasu. Ghost Phantom, Liam Picks Fights had a good quote. This is a volatile sport. We shouldn't brag too much after wins since it's a sport we know less about. It's incredibly volatile. Yep. Absolutely, man. That's why even though I can show the work on certain things, I'm still constantly giving gratitude and citing the luck, the absolute luck that's involved to even get a win, right? So shouts to Liam there. Rain Lamina, you ready for a Carolina title shot next? Oh, goodness. 1985 in the house, baby. James Kendrick, when you went to the judging conference for MMA, did you ask why judges didn't score effective counters and body punching? They kind of explained that, but it's just one of those things where I could have said my piece and it would have just been kind of taking up time and I would have gotten an agreement. But it's at the end of the day, it's what's really, kind of being seen and whatnot. As far as that, and just counters and body work is just one of those things to the human eye, the way we value, the way we pop. It's just it's at a natural uphill battle, even to educated eyes, unfortunately. Hit that like button, guys. Let's get some likes in there. Appreciate that. If you haven't already, we're going to get to the breakdown here. 38-35. All right, UFC Vegas 81. UFC Fight Night 230. UFC Fight Night. What the fuck are we on? Wow, I really blanked out on what Fight Night did we do. I even wrote a thing for this one too. Yusuff versus Barboza. Wow, Dan. Wow. I think everybody's brain is going, guys. Again, it wasn't a break for most of us, and even with that, it's just we've been overloaded with UFC, all the news recently. So forgive us. Let's get through this, shall we? Ugh. All right. My in-depth breakdowns up at MMAJunkie.com as this is going live, as well as a co-main event betting preview. We're going to get to that from top to bottom as per usual on this show. Any questions down below? All right, we've got, of course, Best Fight Odds is fucking so disjointed. We've got Sadiq Yusuff minus 180, Edson Barboza plus 150. Money trickling on Sadiq, but not a lot of money coming in. I get it. This isn't too attractive of a card to bet from face value, and even after researching some of these, comme ci, comme ça, on him, and you could argue even that the odds makers are getting it kind of right, or at least we're agreeing with it. Pre-flop. We'll see, right? They got to fight for us to know. Again, this is another case where it's like, Dan, you went with, I've been real hit and miss with Barboza, I feel like. Let's see. I got it wrong with Billy Q. He showed that, Barboza's still alive, the Brazilian war horse, right? That trope that we always talk about. Barboza definitely fits that. And Quarantillo looked like unkillable. He looked like, again, they look like Bill Aljo, right? Like a little skinny grimace. In my defense for backing him there. Again, Bryce Mitchell won matchup. Kind of just, again, Bryce Mitchell just doing the kind of perfectly timed takedowns kind of a deal. And killing rounds out. The Giga Chikadze backed him there. And then it was looking decent, even though Barboza was being really tentative. He did show improved kick defense. Again, old dog can learn new tricks. That kick defense is going to be tested. So I would say he's probably got the better kick defense than Yusuff. Yusuff kind of shows like earlier Barboza things where he's just so used to dictating kicking traffic. And he's got competent counters off the kick, so it's not like he's like totally, useless if you're kicking him. Obviously, he knows what to do. Yusuff does. But like as far as like consistent checks, not so much. And we'll talk about some head kick possibilities. Especially I could see Barboza's spinning kick because when he spins, it's from an orthodox stance, which means it comes from a left side. And like a lot of the strikes that Yusuff is susceptible to, they come from southpaws. Whether it's Arnold Allen with the left hand, Arnold Allen with the head kick. We saw Alex Caceres, even though it was obviously one of the few fights where we see Yusuff get a little more active with the wrestling, which he's always had in his back pocket. Even the stats don't necessarily represent that. Kind of a weird fight from both of them, but in some senses. But Alex Caceres, remember, he almost gives him a haircut multiple times. And then Yusuff also gets knocked by a head kick really hard in a fight with another guy. Oh, Andre Fili. I believe. Is it Andre Fili? No, Shaman Moraes. I'm sorry. Shaman Moraes hits him with some head kicks from orthodox, granted. I believe at least one from the rear right. He might have also hit a switch up with the left, which is something that I'm also curious if Edson will do. We know he's got that wicked switch body kick. I'm curious if he starts taking that to the head. I think if he goes to the body a couple and then ends up switching to the head, I think he can really take out Yusuff there. It's going to be spin kick or a switch kick to the head. Or his left hook, underrated left hook, right? They could get into some right-hand trades, and Yusuff is not as far from impervious himself. He doesn't have... I wouldn't say he's got a bad chin, but he definitely doesn't have the best chin in the world, right? We're still trying to figure out where in the middle he's at, but he's definitely somewhere in the middle, and it's not toward the good side. I'm not going to say he's down here toward the bad side. He's not a glass cannon. I'll even defend Edson, who's been accused at times of his career of being a glass cannon. I just feel like both guys can be hurt. They're just so used to dictating traffic, things can take them by surprise. But aside from giving Yusuff, obviously, not crazy to give him a slight nod in the punching power, as well as the durability, a slight nod in the durability department. He is the younger man, right? He also does this thing that like Yanez likes to do. Not as smooth as Yanez, and he doesn't have the layers of the left hook quite attached to it, although he will attach one, but not quite as savvy with the left hooks and the pivots. But they almost have this like kind of like pull back / fade off right hand / hook deal they do, where they can kind of show the front right hand going forward and throw it straight, but they really like slipping over a jab, pulling something out, and leaning off and fading off to the side and landing that right hand. Which Barboza can do kind of his own version of that as well, but again, I could see the right hand trade happening in this fight, and we'll see who it favors. Right hand trades are very freaking dangerous. But I would slightly favor Yusuff, which is another reason why, again, aside from the left hand and left-footed susceptibility that I pointed out in the southpaw or switch-up matchups for Yusuff, Barboza, maybe, I don't know how much he still leans on that Mark Henry left hook that he had from those days where he got better at pivoting with it and checking with it. And it's not that it was a punch that necessarily stopped guys or whatever, but, he would quietly hit the, even Justin Gaethje's of the world. He was tagging him with that before getting KO'd, of course. I think that punch could also serve him well here, Barboza against Yusuff, again, with the left-sided susceptibilities. But I don't like it, but I'm going with Yusuff. I know you think that I would go with Barboza maybe again, especially after last main event. Dan, you went against the dog. Even though I like Yusuff a lot more than I like Dawson, I'm not like, oh, Yusuff's the next title challenger. You never hear me get that excited. Not that I'm shitting on him or denying him. And I'm just saying, as far as, what's the energy is Dan kept toward that? Well, it's been pretty even keel, I'd say, and that stays the way here. But, you got the upside, the age. Barboza looked great his last time out. He really did. He really looked like he turned back the clock. He's been sitting down on his hands more, hurting guys more at 145. But, and you could say, how does he do against strikers before? I'm like, well, it's kind of mixed, right? You could say that he should have got the win against Ige and Felder, right? The second fight against Felder. But those were splits, and even though Ige, has knockout power, and Bryce Mitchell just kind of touted that, I think Ige was still figuring that out and figuring out how to sit on his punches more better, and his version that we've seen when he fought Barboza then. Felder, for as much as the leg kicks and stuff is applicable to Yusuff's style, there's a lot of parallels there. The one-shot knockout power, not shitting on Paul. Paul admits this even when he's calling fights. He'll make jokes about it. Not known for that one-shot power, right? Gaethje was, and again, Barboza may have had quiet moments that I just highlighted that might not be reflected in a one-round KO loss, but again, ultimately lost that. Hooker was impressive. I picked Hooker there, was wrong there. Just torched him with the body work, right, which was beautiful. Dariush, but that's more of a southpaw pressure performance with grappling, as well as Michael Johnson, a little less grappling threat, obviously, but a southpaw pressure performance. Which, again, Yusuff could do as well. You go back to that Yusuff fight where he fought, who was it? I liked it because he... the point is, Edson's mixed. It's, it's especially as his career's gone on, when he gets guys striking with him, even though that's a dangerous thing to do. It's not like people haven't had success or emphatic success doing that with Barboza before. Was it his fight with Caceres or Feely or Benitez? It was Benitez. It was really smart. So last time he went against a really good kicker, right, is outside of Caceres, who's got some dangerous, tricky kicks. And then Arnold rocked him, obviously. Feely's got some tricky head kicks as well, but Benitez, a really notable hard kicker, right? Granted, he's a southpaw. And what did he do? He actually fought him like Barboza opponents, that blueprint where you got to pressure that. Jamie Varner almost, not as wild as Jamie Varner, not as wrestly as Jamie Varner, obviously. But Yusuff really was just, punching himself, forcing himself into the clinch against the cage. Because, again, there's not a lot of takedowns there. But the reason why there's a lot of takedowns is because he fights into the clinch a lot. And guys get kind of desperate from there. And Yusuff's got some decent counter wrestling, some decent trips. And fights end up on the floor. And he's got some decent reversals as well from figure four, double wrist lock, right? Grips to turn guys around and whatnot. So fights end up there often. And he will push there if the matchup calls for it, Say what you will about the criminally underrated Lloyd Irvin. I love that. John Anik uses that. They game plan pretty well, you got to get out of hairy situations, right? But yeah, the game plan very well. So I'm expecting that here. I think the small cage is definitely going to benefit Yusuff. And it's going to encourage exchanges, which, again, it's going to be dangerous either way. You should not be surprised either way someone goes down. But I do slightly favor Yusuff in there, so I'll pick him. But I ain't going to play the chalk on him. Maybe I put Yusuff by KO in a round robin, especially if this goes late, because the only play I have on it, I don't know. It seemed really a bargain for me. I was thinking they were going to set the under at 1.5 rounds, maybe 2.5 for a fight like this. Not only did they set it at 3.5, but they said it in the public as far as this recording. Maybe they've juiced it up since, but they left it at somewhat playable chalk, minus 150. That's what I took it at, 1.5 units, minus 150, under 3.5 rounds. I know, Dan, did you learn your lesson? Well, there's UFC totals here in the small cage unders, so for what it's worth. But yeah, I feel like I don't know if there's a safe bet in this fight. I don't know if there's a safe bet in MMA, but I feel like this is one of the air quote safer approaches, maybe. Yeah, it's still sitting right there. I mean, you can get it at like minus 138 at FanDuel. Under 3.5 rounds there. Oh, I am hungry. I've been eating, but not enough, and I've been up for a while today. Oh my goodness. Why don't I eat more on the days I work out, Dan? Be dummy. Before I move on, I got a couple here. To the co-main event. This is Tuesday. I listened to Jack Slack's Patreon podcast. He said he doesn't know if Yusuff can change his game plan and pressure Barboza effectively, since Barboza will just auto-lose when his pressure is applied. Yeah, I don't blame that thought. I don't... Jack Slack, obviously, I love Jack Slack. I respect him. I don't know how much... Again, that's another thing. It's just like... And this goes for myself. This isn't me shitting or casting aspersions. This is just the reality that applies to myself and every other analyst you have to keep in mind. It's really hard to watch tape on kind of every fight. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of unrealistic. So I'm definitely not shitting on anybody, but sometimes you have to keep those things in mind because, again, just like I said, you can get swayed away by the betting public. You seen the line move, right? The same goes even not for just a betting line. Sometimes just someone's opinion you respect. They're like, oh, they're on that person. And I do it too. I feel it every week. I'm not above this. Again, I'm not casting shade. I'm not above it when I'm saying this. This is just a reality, which is why I'm saying it. And you will hear someone, especially if you respect a friend, internet friend, whatever the case is, you're like, oh crap, that person's on it. Like it happens to me every week. I say it here every week, right? But again, you got to listen to yourself. You got to listen to your own opinion at the end of the day, in life, not just for gambling or stupid things like picking fights, right? You just got to listen to yourself, especially if you see something. Ghost Phantom, Sadiq hanging out at range seems like a disaster against Barboza, kind of like the Dan Hooker fight, where he uses ultra-fast switch kicks. Hopefully Sadiq can make the right style change. Yeah, for his sake. If not, hopefully then it just ends and I cash the under. I'll be happy. I'll be happy to be wrong about this one, folks. I'll be happy at Barboza. My heart's with Barboza here in case that's not clear. But yeah, I do agree. Sadiq, for his sake, he's going to have to pressure. And, again, I still think he can win with his style, even though it's really dangerous and he's not beyond getting hit. He does have, really good eyes in exchanges. And I just see that counter right hand smashing Barboza. To be honest, I can't get that on my head. I hope I'm wrong. I think I officially picked Yusuff to find it by round 2. But I think I might add on Barboza TKO round 4, round 5. In case it goes long, and then have Yusuff KO in my round robin. So essentially, we're just hoping for a finish, hoping for it to be under, and just anything but a decision, right? But yeah, I think you can get Barboza numbers in 18 to 25, 100. And I would go round 4 or 5 KO combinations there, 0.17 units. Don't be surprised if I add that on the sheet again. Just for a pickup in case it goes over 3.5. I'm not gonna do 3, 4, and 5 for Barboza, not just because I didn't pick him. Don't need that exposure. Don't need to go over 2 units. You know what I'm saying? If I do add I'm just gonna add those now. So I'm seeing plus 18. I bet online. Anybody wants to tell plus 18 plus 2,500 for Barboza KO props. And yeah, so if it goes over, he's probably going to have the better cardio. Let's not forget, even when getting wrestle-fucked, he was able to rock Kevin Lee, I believe, in round 4 with a spin kick and hit Khabib fucking Nurmagomedov with the same one, but Khabib's big head didn't feel it, and that was in round 3 after getting wrestle-fucked by Khabib for 2 rounds, right? So Barboza can lose and still win late. And we haven't seen Yusuff there. He has tough weight cuts, although his cardio seems to recover okay. He's got that athletic recoup thing, so we'll see. All right, moving on. Co-main event. Jennifer Maia minus 155. Viviane Arauuuuuuujo Arauuuuuujo plus 130. I'm going to give it a little retweet on the Twitter in case the people want to come hang out. Breaking down. UFC Vegas 81 now. There we go. All right, cool. Got that out there. Yeah, so for this co-main event, I ended up, spoiler alert, and where's the foreplay, Dan? I ended up taking Maia. I saw her at minus 145, which was a slight discount from the opener, minus 150. It's slowly trickling, similar to the Sadiq line, but behind and slower. Slowly trickling in on Maia, because I think people are coming to the same conclusion. It's pretty much priced right, so you're not seeing too much movement on it, right? And Arauuuuuujo is probably not too trustworthy as a dog. Very inconsistent with that gas tank. Like, it was kind of a tepid performance from Grasso as well in that fight. So it's kind of weird to say it's like Grasso, Shevchenko, but I don't remember her. And I recently watched it. Maybe my blame it on my ADD. I might have missed the. I might have missed it if she did, but there wasn't. The fuck is that? Okay, got something going on in my ear. Switch that link out. Sure, Dog Link is talking to me there. But yeah, I don't know. I like. Thank you guys for hitting the likes there. I appreciate that. Hit that like button. We got 10 viewers, 11 viewers, and 6 likes. So smash the like button if you're bothering to hang out. Even if you're not staying, just hit it and run. Phrasing there, Dan. Jesus Christ. But yeah, I ended up taking 1.5 units on Maia at minus 145. I guess a slight discount on there. If she goes above minus 160, just like I said with my Action Network article, I think you should parlay north of that. You guys know me. Minus 150 is kind of my limit for playable chalk as far as straight plays on the money line, kicking for coverage goes. So we're just under there with just under for a discount for whatever that's worth. CLV, Dan Tom, Jerkoff, Jiff here. Let's just worry about cash in this one. You know what I'm saying? By any means necessary, Maia by decision is most likely. But I actually sprinkled a quarter unit at plus 1600 by Maia by TKO. I know that hasn't happened since 2014. But in my opinion, part of the reason why I played her is because Maia hasn't been finished since well before that, over a decade, over 11 years, in fact, since she's been finished. And I think an opportunistic finish is Arauuuuuujo's path. However, Maia, hadn't been submitted since, again, beginning of her career. She's been a black belt since. And I know ranks are funny. Not all jiu-jitsu black belts are alike. I'm not even going to get into the Muay Thai black belt stuff. But what it does show is that somebody did put in time, effort, and getting somewhat of a proper education on the striking arts. And that's what a black belt in any art represents, right? She's also competed at amateur levels for what it's worth, Jennifer Maia. So the striking is a little more natural to her, which is probably why she has more of an arsenal. You would think the natural striker, like if you were to watch them for like 10 or 15 seconds, you would be like, oh, Arauuuuuujo is the way better striker. But if you watch her pass her kind of slick flows and cool returns and quick athletic punches, there's not a lot of kicks, there's not a lot of variety, and it's a lot of that same trick. And that same trick and that head movement and that pull, that low-handed pull that she loves to do, and kind of shoulder roll that she'll kind of slip toward, it falls the fuck apart after round 1, folks. It falls the fuck apart. That even Amanda Ribas was tagging her consistently. Even in round 1, leading up to that, before getting rocked in round 2, which is a really bad look that you have a worse chin or showing worse durability issues than Amanda Ribas. I know Arauuuuuujo has also killed herself back in the day in Japan to fight at strawweight before too, but she's got knockouts and competitions at 135 where Ribas doesn't. Ribas is a small flyweight, and is notoriously one of the worst chins maybe in any division, right? And that was a really bad look. And I know I was on Arauuuuuujo then, so maybe it's the countering the steering wheel the other way. That betting bias we all have, that bitter bias, right? They hurt us or whatever, so we're like, oh, we're going to root again. No, I'm not even, you guys know me. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, if it's like a Volkov and I just keep fucking up on it, I just get scared and blame myself at that point. You know, call it what it is and move on with my day. But yeah, no, I just Arauuuuuujo is somebody that I've taken a shot on before as a dog. You know me, I don't hate WMMA dogs. Look at me, I just cashed a Demopolis ticket last week. I get it. But I would kick for coverage because it's hard to know. It's like, does she land, you know, Maia's super durable, but she is hittable too, and has been rocked before, even though she recovers really well, and it's definitely much more fewer and far between than Arauuuuuujo has been rocked. She's been rocked, I think, like 3 of her last 4 or something like that. But, you know, maybe those 2 of those moments, Arauuuuuujo fights the perfect fight to just edge 2 of the rounds, right? Arauuuuuujo, WMMA, she's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, you know, just like I said, Maia's striking credentials. Well, Arauuuuuujo kind of has that similar edge in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt department, even though they're both black belts, right? Maybe she catches something. Maybe she lands a crazy head kick out of nowhere or something, even though she doesn't really throw those, like I said. But I don't think so. In fact, right hands were the common culprit in that Hibosh fight. Right hands coming forward and off the counter kind of seem to be the common culprit outside of the head kick, which is also an option for Maia. Maia's got those. I think she even almost took off, Manon Fiorot's head with the head kick, which is something that is more common than people realize when I did that tape study, the Southpaw report on Fiorot a few weeks ago, folks, or whatever, a few months ago, whenever the fuck it was. And I took Maia as a flyer in that fight. And again, she didn't win. I didn't score it for her, but it wasn't particularly close where it was like, oh, you could make an argument for Maia, but she had enough moments and did good enough where I didn't look crazy. Even with the method that I called with the round, because Fiorot will shoot stupid takedowns that she doesn't need to, and she did it in round 2 like I called for, and Maia almost locked something up, I believe, if I recall correctly. So, not crying about the result or anything, but I will say it's kind of like one of those, not that you should live and die off these, but just to know you're not crazy, you know, like we said about, you know, not second-guessing yourself. Kind of like the Ricky Glenn, Grant Dawson, you know, you didn't really cash it, but it showed at least you weren't crazy for being on an island picking a big dog. Maia definitely doesn't get respect. You know, I'm a big Casey O'Neill fan. She's from my stomping grounds, Extreme Couture here, trains. But even I said that was really dumb that Maia was at dog odds there. You could maybe argue maybe she could be a little wider. That's why money is trickling in. But no, I think it's just right. I took it at minus 145. Maybe I'll sprinkle the KO in the round robin if I don't have anything else to put there. But I just took it straight up because at plus 1,600, it's just a quarter unit to get you back 4 units if that happens. Because Maia has been improving her boxing as of late. She's been sitting down on her punches more. And like Maia-Arauuuuuujo, say what you will about the kind of crazy loss of her last fights by submission. And her subject to inconsistency, right? Especially in the grappling. She can look really good there, and it can be the reason why she's winning, cashing us plus 2,700 round 2 submission tickets like she did, right? Or just costing us a money line flyer at plus money when she gets guillotined right away with like a second left to go, right? Like that is Maia-Arauuuuuujo. What she is, though, she's pretty damn durable as far as punches go. You know what I'm saying? And the punches that Maia was hitting her, she was hitting her on the way in and on the way out. You hear her corner, you hear O'Neill's corner saying this as well, and it's something that, again, Maia's consistently been doing for a few fights right now, and that's exactly where you're going to hit someone like Arauuuuuujo. And the fact that Maia's consistent, she's got the bounce around footwork, she should be able to end up on top position if this does go to the ground. I see her as the better positional grappler. I don't think anybody gets a submission, at least soberly, but like, yo, could she rock and then get in like a dominant position and maybe pound out Arauuuuuujo, or just even knock her out straight? You know what I'm saying? With a right hand, like a really random, well placed one. It's, you know, it's not the most likely, which is why it's priced so high. But I can't get that image out of my head. So yeah, I played by the KO decision again. It's the most likely way to go, but do not be surprised if Jennifer Maia gets a finish, and if I'm wrong and a woman underdog cashes, I won't be surprised because it's MMA and it's women's MMA, right? That's what happens. All right, next fight, we're gonna go to Adrian Yanez minus 112, Jonathan Martinez minus 108. That's only at DraftKings though. It's kind of weird lines. Everywhere else, it appears that Jonathan Martinez, like at FanDuel, minus 120 is favored, minus 106. That's been the trend. This opened at even minus 110 apiece. And I was bummed, man, because you guys know me. You want to talk about, supporter of guys waving their flags, underdogs. I was the Jonathan Martinez guy before it was fucking cool all of a sudden, right? Like, I don't know if it's cool, but you know what I mean. Like, he should be a dog here. Yanez is the hype guy. Martinez has been getting shit. I've been having to defend him since, like, him debuting at short notice as a guy who was a former flyweight, you know, because and then he debuts. He's got the vote for Pedro. He's shy. He loses to Andre Sukumtat, who gets shit on so much, all right? You know, my guy Sukumtat. Right? I mean, like, the cards were fucking stacked against Martinez from the jump. And here I was, not just cashing in on him as an underdog, not just talking about his southpaw stylings, but even defending his wrestling, whether he was facing Said Nurmagomedovs of the world, Frankie Saenz of the world, the Zavalishvili guys of the world, and just proving me right in all facets, cashing those fucking tickets. Jonathan Martinez, the Dragon, vote for Pedro. I was hoping we got him at Dog Outs here. I'm actually upset that people are finally catching on and picking him, but this is a dangerous fight. You know, I looked at that Davy Grant fight, and like, Davy Grant's got a good left hand. He put Jonathan Martinez out with the left hand. The left hand is the southpaw killer. Shout out to my guy Connor Rebush, right? Yanez has a good left hand. He's also got a really good counter right hand that he does like to use against southpaws. I went and did the southpaw report. Ran this one full through the comb, all the way up until showtime, pretty much. And yeah, Yanez is 0-1 against UFC level southpaws. Granted, that's a fight that is 6 years ago in March 2017, LFA against Domingo Pilarte, who has been really inconsistent, not the greatest record in the UFC, not fought much. But in that fight, it was really frustrating because even before Pilarte hurts his hand, he was one-handed in that fight. And it almost has a standing stoppage. Like, the ref actually goes in, like, Pilarte gets, like, caught up against the fence, and finally Yanez it takes him to the third round to finally start flowing on him because he looks uncomfortable as hell against the southpaw. Granted, this is a younger Yanez, and Pilarte, even though he's not offering much, he is very long for that division. So you got to cut. That could be part of the reason there. So you got to kind of cut Yanez some slack there too, right? But by the time round 3 comes along, and by the way, up until then, he's just like kind of like he doesn't really know what to do. He's not really jabbing. He will occasionally he's just really kind of waiting for Pilarte to throw, and he's waiting for a proper commitment, and then he's looking to launch a right hand. And then Pilarte picks up on this, so Pilarte just annoyingly throws shallow jabs and looks to try to Luke Rockhold impression him and check hook him coming in. But he occasionally throws big kicks that Yanez doesn't look too comfortable with. Note that for a second later here. And that plus the takedowns and cage pressure is enough to bank Pilarte like the first 2 rounds, right? And then Pilarte has his hand hurt somewhere in round 2. It's visibly there, but even still, Yanez doesn't go after him. It's not till his hand is more clearly hurt. Maybe his corner picked up on it. And Pilarte is just gassed and falling apart at this point, like backing up to the cage. And yeah, that's where, you know, Yanez finally starts flurrying him. And it looks like the ref's about to step in. It was funny, man. It was like the ref was so slow. He goes to step in at like a classic standing stoppage. But as he goes to step, like the ref is so slow that he takes a step. And it was almost like, not only did he take a step before, he takes a step clear enough before that I think it cued Pilarte, where he's like, oh shit, he's coming in here to stop it. And Pilarte just shoots a takedown. And the ref goes and just misses Pilarte. Like, he shoots a takedown and pushes himself, and Yanez, like, out of the way of the moving train that is the referee coming to stop the fight. And you see the referee just kind of casually try to parlay that he was going to stop the fight and play it off like he wasn't. Which would have been perfect, and Yanez would be 1-0 against southpaws, I guess. He goes on to lose that fight. He gets some southpaw looks against Gustavo Lopez, but not as much as Gustavo Lopez usually shows, and most of the meaningful exchanges were in orthodox. There was one where he's kind of shifting the southpaw, and Yanez catches him, but you can tell Yanez really is waiting for the orthodox looks and the orthodox jab commitments. He loves countering over the tops of jabs, which is why I picked him to fight Font, but Font was just able to kind of get to him first. Beautiful collar die action from Font, and then Yanez in interviews saying that he kind of just saw red and threw his game plan out the window. I could see it, but not trying to take anything away from Font's win, obviously. It was what I was happy to be wrong about there. But yeah, I'm just kind of citing what Yanez said to that, right? But it's funny when you look like Davy Grant, he didn't show much southpaw as you'd like, but in round 1, he actually chews up Yanez's leg pretty bad. And that's one thing I didn't catch on. Like Yanez, he's got his best kick defense is his body kicks. He's got good body kicks he can catch and counter. He does the Muay Thai pass-throughs. And even when he does get kicked, like Grant actually goes southpaw and hits him with a good body kick. But then you see Yanez actually countering the kicks, which were completely vacant earlier in his career when he's facing Domingo Pilarte. I don't even think he tries to return maybe one the whole fight, right? It was really bad. Whereas he's a little better at countering kicks than you watch his last 4 or 5 fights. I watched all his UFC and Contender Series fights before this, by the way, and obviously some of his LFA fights too. But yeah, it's not till more recent fights in his UFC tenure where Yanez gets better at countering kicks, which he's going to obviously need here. However, when Grant does go back to southpaw, he's not going at the legs, even though he's able to pretty much get the legs whenever he wants for the most part in that. Yanez does have some step back defense and stuff. Not only doesn't have any defense, I'm not trying to discount him totally, obviously. But like round 3, I think you see Davey Grant start like radically pressuring. He knows he's got to get after it. He's probably behind on the cards, and he goes southpaw and he kind of just starts spamming body and head kicks, and it's only a brief second, doesn't last long. But Yanez does not look comfortable. I don't know if Yanez trains with much southpaws. I'm going to try to go to his Instagram while we're talking. That is the one thing I guess I didn't do. I know Rafian Stotts is a southpaw who sometimes trains down there. Let me see. Adrian Yanez. Who does he train with? See if he pops up on his. Any pictures with his training partners? Don't have to dig too deep. Not too much. I see Matt Chanel. Not really a southpaw, though. Orthodox fighter. Yeah, I don't know how many southpaws he really trains with, or at least high-level ones. So I actually really like Martinez there. Martinez, I noticed he's been much better at not just with the grappling, but clenching, intercepting elbows, and parlaying that with a long guard. So with southpaw, you usually have that extra distance that people have to close in. To counter your kicks, they have to come in at a bit of a longer distance, and that's why the check hook is such a beautiful counterplay off it. And that's why guys like Luke Rockhold is better than I give him credit for. Obviously, he's a great fighter, he's a former middleweight champion, but I always make fun of him because he had such a pared down southpaw game. Didn't really have too much of a jab. It seemed to get him in trouble more often when he used it, a la 199 against Bisping. He was mainly a left kick and that counterbalance check hook, but you can't leave home without your check hook as a southpaw. It's such an important punch. Such a hard counter to get your read on, and again, a perfect counterbalance to that kick. Now, what adds to protection of that is we're seeing Martinez use much more of a long guard, especially off those kicks, which is beautiful. It parlays to up slicing elbows that he's using, which also parlays to clench and knees. It's just, he really has a multi-layered strike. He's really going to be hell on earth for wrestlers, but I think well-rounded fighters / well-rounded strikers with a good game plan can still get to him. So I'm curious to see what that Yanez is. So he's not going to go heavy into Martinez, right? Because he's like, oh, I got aggressive last time, and I need to be smarter. And he said he never watched tape. So that's going to be the X factor, because he's going to have had a good game plan from that. Because I think between what he's saying to what the human nature is after coming off your first knockout loss, I would think maybe he fights smarter and just kind of, does his thing. It was to a fault, like in that Domingo Pilarte fight back in the day, where he kind of waits for the perfect shot. He's gotten, obviously, I don't want to say a little better, but I also don't want to say much better. I want to say somewhere in the middle. He's gotten better at drawing out those shots that he likes. That's clear, right? He's not as inactive, Yanez is. But back to, again, hard kickers, right? Yusuff first, Benitez, and now going against Barboza. What was the common thread? He pressured against Benitez. He's going to have to, even though it ended up getting him rocked and he still won, right? He's going to have to pressure against Barboza. That's the same dynamic here. It's the same dynamic. And I don't know if we can depend on Yanez to do it when he was confident and full of piss and vinegar, much less, when he is coming off the first knockout loss. So the X factor is he's going to have to find something really good on tape. Now, what Davy Grant, not only is Davy Grant super janky, but what Davy Grant does is something that Yanez doesn't really do. Not that Yanez won't switch to southpaw occasionally or show that look. Yanez is primarily an orthodox fighter, but Davy Grant does like the ugly like jump shift. Speaking of Masvidal, Darren Till, right? He does that thing. He does it like an old school Taekwondo guy where he's like almost jumping in the air and rotating his horse stance, his ha stance. And then he just throws an overhand left from southpaw from the rear, right? And that's what and it's whilst Jonathan Martinez is throwing, so you have that perfect just interaction of time, and that's what knocks Jonathan Martinez's kind of dick into the dirt there, for lack of a better word, right? Matt Pauly, Thursday nights with Dan Tom. Let's fucking go. Thank you, sir. Make sure to hit that like button. Appreciate y'all. But yeah, that's kind of what hit him there. I don't know if Yanez is gonna do that per se. So I don't know what he saw, but I have a feeling that the leg kicks and the head kicks are gonna be big here. I want to say Jonathan Martinez is probably favored to win by decision. I want to look at what the props here. I didn't play this fight. We'll see if I do. I just don't like that money's coming in on Jonathan Martinez. If he goes back down toward minus 110, maybe I'll play him straight up. I'll probably have him in a method in my... it's plus 300 for Yanez. No. It's plus 275. Yeah, they can't decide. Choose, Parker! It's 1,200 by sub, of course, because that's least likely, which I agree. It's plus 275 by points for Martinez. And by KO, it is plus 300. That's tough, man. That's tough. I'm probably leaning. I do think I agree with the odds. It's slightly more of a chance that Martinez gets it done by points, but he could get it done by KO. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I play him straight up and I throw, by points in the round robin for plus 275. That's tough. Or maybe, I don't get a chance at the money line, and maybe I will take, throw points in the round robin and then maybe sprinkle on by KO. And you just have those 2+ monies, and you hope Martinez wins, because those are going to be the two methods that he wins, and that'll cash some way, somehow, right? So that'll be my maybe two angles of attack if you wanted to play Martinez. Obviously, the value is on Yanez, if you can find him, especially with, some plus money next to his name. Yanez by KO. I would say maybe it would be more the shot, but even they know that. They have Yanez by KO plus 200, a whole 100 short of him by points. They know how that is. So, yeah, and then, if Martinez did finish, it would be in 2 or 3. That's 800 and 1,000. Those aren't even, I would kind of still want more odds than that, to be honest. Yeah, I don't even know if I play Martinez round props at all in there, maybe you sprinkle in round 2 and 3 and you play the money line for coverage. I don't know if I'm going to attack the board in this fight, but I am picking Martinez, probably by decision with the possibility of a late round stoppage by leg kicks. That is the pick there. I'll get through the rest of the main card quickly, and we'll go and I'll answer you guys' questions before we knock out the prelims even quicker. How about that? Andre Petroski, plus 170. Michel Pereira, minus 205. I was seeing Petroski as high as plus 185. He was lower in the week. Plus 184 over on Bet Online. That's tempting. If he gets near 2-1, I feel like I gotta play Petroski no matter what, even if I don't pick him. I've been tempted to play him all week. So here's full disclosure on this fight. This fight caught my eye, and I was like, oh, Petroski's taking it on short notice. Crap, because I wanted to play Petroski or at dog money, but I'm like, shit, short notice, right? And Michel Pereira, he's always been destined for middleweight. This is his weight class. I've been saying he should be fighting at middleweight and light heavyweight, not welterweight. So it's not like it's a fade there, he's being punished, and it's like it's Kelvin Gastelum fight. And even Kelvin Gastelum, as much as he wasn't sized for middleweight, look how much he overachieved there. And I actually played him as an underdog, so maybe not the best example, as far as an accurate one for me, but it was an example that I'm kind of just throwing out to you guys to say, what the common line of thinking maybe might be. It's like, oh yeah, fade the guy who's out of his weight class. Not necessarily, right? He's been training like a dog. He just turned around and kept training over in Las Vegas when his fight next door in Utah fell apart. So I'm expecting Michel Pereira to come in top form, but he's been fighting smarter. The small cage makes that a little harder, and especially with an aggressive guy like Petroski, right? who could very well just eat a knee here, for sure. Michel Pereira is 1-1 against UFC level southpaws, knocking out Danny Roberts with, I believe, a knee. I still got to go back and watch that one. And then, of course, I got to go rewatch his DQ loss to Diego Sanchez, which I don't know how much of a loss that is, right? Obviously. That was that really weird fight. I don't know how much we can take from that either, as far as him versus southpaw goes. But Petroski, has got a strong left hand, good wrestling. He's been training out in Thailand, so I got to imagine that left kick has gotten a lot better. Michel Pereira will kick to the body, though. That'll be good against a guy taking the fight on short notice, who looks like he can gas at times. But then again, Petroski, he's only lost, once or whatever, or some shit. And, he always looks like he's gassing, but then he's got, third-round finishes. And, again, he's got, that athlete recoup that I talk about, where he'll gas if you can, Max Holloway, and both build and consistently keep it on him, like this. But if you give him pockets to recoup, he will recoup and be back in the action and make it a goddamn roller coaster on you. Yeah, the guy's only lost once. I know maybe in the Tough House he's lost and whatnot. I remember we had to Brian Battle. Ninja Choke round 2. Aaron Jeffries round 2. But it looks like he's learned how to pick up the pack from those fights. Has gotten a lot better. A split decision there over a GM3. Looks like he dogged that one out. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's dog or pass. I may still end up picking Michel Pereira. Hit me at Dan Tom MMA to see what my MMA Junkie on Fight Day for my quick picks and prognostications. This is on the main card, and as well as to see my picks and plays. I post them always on Fight Day at Dan Tom MMA on the artist, formerly known as X. Next fight. This is the fight I was taping before we got on here. Christian Rodriguez minus 162. I actually almost finished his side of the tape just because I wanted to see him, what he looked like against southpaws. Josh Weems switched a little bit, primarily fought southpaws, and even though that was lower level, that was short notice replacement. That was technically in the UFC, so that would fit my stat as being 1-0 against UFC level southpaws. I'm going to skip the Lacerda Chairez. I'll go right back to that one to finish out the main card here in a second, folks. But yeah, I got to go back over Cameron-Saaiman. But I agree with the odds from what I'm seeing so far. I don't know if I'm going to have a play on this fight. If I see an angle, I'll obviously stick that on the round robin, which is looking kind of sparse. In case you can't already tell, I'm really topsy-turvy, wishy-washy on what I want in there as of right now. I'll give you guys a recap of what I'm looking at the end here. But if I see anything from this one, I will go for it. But as far as laying the chalk on Rodriguez, considering the chalk that I'm already on, if I do add chalk, it's probably going to be close to pick'em chalk with Martinez. I don't think I'll be staying away from that. But if there's a cool angle that pops out, maybe I want to take Rodriguez by submission or decision, which would probably be the 2 stabs, depending on what's argued there. Shout out to my guy Lou Betya. I bet you this is going to be a Yambag special, because what I do remember about Cameron-Saaiman before I go running through the comb again is that the dude fouls a lot. So if you're at one of those houses that offer points for odds, big odds for point deduction, this probably wouldn't be a bad fight, because Christian Rodriguez can be frustrating, even though he's not like a swarming grappler or a blanket guy that'll create the fouls. We see that he will, if you're forcing that kind of fight, he will flow and be more than happy to ride backs or snatch up subs, right? From the Raul Rosas Jr. fight or whatever to the aforementioned sub win in the Josh Weems fight. Rodriguez by submission plus 400. Rodriguez by decision plus 165. Yeah, they're kind of making you choose Parker, but those are both decent enough to throw in a round robin, at least for my appetites. So yeah, don't be surprised. Right now I'm leaning toward Christian Rodriguez. Don't be surprised if I pick him there. So this one's on the main card. I'm going to have to do more of a pass on this one, even though I've already broken it down and picked and played it. We got Daniel Da Silva, Daniel Lacerda, Daniel La Verga, plus 280. Edgar Chairez, minus 355. This is even wider since the last time, probably because it ended with Chairez and a guillotine. I got to go back and rewatch that. From what I remember, it was pretty back and forth. And in a fight this wild with this much variance, I feel like I'm going to take Lacerda again. You're going to give me even better odds this time around. Don't be surprised if he ends up just as a round robin shot, right? it's definitely dog or pass from a betting perspective, even if I end up going back and picking Chairez and just see something that really sways my mind. But, yeah, I mean, I got to go back to rewatch it because that's what I do. It's what I try to do. And obviously, it's definitely what I do and try to do if I'm writing it up on the main card, which it got put on. So I'm going to go do my due diligence and rewatch that fight again. But, yeah, I don't see why this isn't dog or pass no matter who you pick. All right, I'm going to go clean up the chat before we knock out the prelims. Let's go here. Dun, 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 dun. Jin Karasu, why isn't Martinez Yanez the co-main event? Why is it Maia versus Arauuuuuuujo? Sorry for the Iron Maiden Hallowed Be Thy Name there. Extension. Yeah, it's ridiculous, but what are you going to do? You know, this is classic. We've been getting lucky lately, guys. Like they've been sparing us co-main event openers, and they've actually been opening the card with like bantamweights, featherweights, main cards with bantamweights, featherweights, and lightweights. So, and sparing us the heavyweight co-main events, I should say. So, I am going to be careful about complaining too much. I know, crazy. Me? I know. James Kendrick says, you mentioned Arauuuuuuujo's gas tank. How... I'm going to get that stuck in your guys' head. How does that make gas tank, i.e. cardio, better? Is it just a genetic thing or more cardio exercises? How does one make a gas tank cardio better? There's a lot of answers to that. You know, pace management, right, is huge. Obviously, training your cardio and different types of cardio, whether it's, you know, you can say, oh, getting on a treadmill. It's not even like, you know, it's like, oh, get on a treadmill. It's like there's sport-specific stuff. Like you need to be sparring and Brownie stop. You need to be sparring and grappling. And if you have a worry about that, then yeah, let's crank out some sparring rounds and get you comfortable on the feet, or get you comfortable in grappling to where your cardio and your shape is improving, but you're finding spots maybe where you can rest, which again falls under pace management. And as far as the old treadmill and just that stuff, that's something that's kind of a fallacy that I recently learned about my doing my camp last. I didn't get to fight doing my camp last year. Shout out to my guy Gil Guardado. I want to get back on those sprint regimes, but you know, even guys like Mike Dulce and stuff will preach this as far as like the benefits of you get just as much benefit from walking as you do running without the deterioration of your knees and ankles. Right? Sounds crazy, but there's ways to explain that where it actually makes sense and you can incorporate that. You know, when COVID first hit, you know, my strength and conditioning coach was like, yeah, I was doing. You know, I would run, I would only sprint short distances and then walk and primarily do walking laps, and was getting my cardio that way. And then you find a hill and you do your hill sprints for actually, you know, to improve your cardio and really get that up to snuff. You know, what was it? It should be, you got to find a hill that it takes you roughly either 10 to 12 or 10 to 15 seconds for you to get up to the top. And then I believe, don't quote me, it's either 30 to 45 or 45 to 50 seconds. Or even 45 to a minute even. Right around 45 seconds, I think it needs to be your rest. And not just takes you 45 seconds to get down the hill, but you want to still have like 20 seconds to get a couple of breaths and check your clock and be ready for the next one. And then boom, you bolt up again, right? And you do that, I think like, what was I doing it? I think I was doing it like, was it like five fives? You do 5 intervals of 5, and yeah, and you were fucking done after that. But you're doing short bursts and intervals, and that kind of reenacts, you know, I think you do like, you know, 5 in a row for 1 round, right? And that's 1 round, right? 5 minutes or whatever, because it equals 5 minutes. Yeah, that's right. It's 10 to 15 up the hill, and no more than 45 seconds max rest in between. So you do that 5 times, that's 5 minutes, that's 1 round, 5-minute round, right? So you do that per rounds you fight, right? Or just to be extra, because usually sparring, whether you're amateur or pro, you're doing probably 5 rounds with the way the practice goes, right? So, you know, and not to burn yourself out, but just as a general, so you're used to it. So plenty different ways there. Sorry, long-winded answer. You mentioned Vivi Arauuuuuujo's habit of pulling back and using head movement gets her tired. Generally, how do you punish that? You feint it out, and you feint out her movements to make her waste the defensive movements, and hopefully she has the hardwired comebacks. And again, if you're feinting it out, that means you should be expecting / trying to draw out those hardwired comebacks, so you shouldn't be getting hit by it, which means she is expending more energy returning. And of course, when you swing and you miss, you expend even more energy. And as far as what you're throwing to hit, well, you should be throwing to the body and legs, because again, if they're doing head movement, that means they're doing trunk movement, and if their head's hard to hit because they're good at moving their trunk, the body still stays there, the legs still stay there, and that is something definitely will be open for Maia, and she does target as well. Matt Pauly, I already got you. James Kendrick, fire matchup between Martinez and Yanez, I agree. Rios and Truesdale, speaking of southpaw lead hooks, not MMA, but boxing, Manny Pacquiao had a nice southpaw lead hook. Of course, a great southpaw there. Great shout there, Rios and Truesdale. Ghost, the Yanez-Randy Costa wasn't interesting to watch. Costa would throw a rear high kick at the lead shoulder and rear feint, then jab. Very cool look against Yanez. Yeah, he also had some cool switch kicks in the very beginning of that fight. And Martinez will southpaw jab and throw straight shots, which could encourage head movement. Again, something I look for against either southpaw kickers or switch stance kickers, from the orthodox is, are they facing a wrestle boxer? Because if they're facing a wrestle boxer, there's definitely going to be some heavy crouches. And just in general, even if they're just a boxing stylist, kind of like Yanez is, how much of that crouch and dip is there? Now, Yanez doesn't go heavy to that side that much. Not saying he can't dip to that side or can't be hit from dipping into that side. But what I did notice is that knees seem to be a susceptibility, and that's something else that Martinez is really good at. So the knees, just kind of like how Rob Font with the hockey punches, the collar tie, Martinez's knees are going to be so potent in that range too. So that's going to be a real danger of overly trying to get past those kicks. You don't want to go too past. You want to get past the kicking range if you're Yanez, but you don't want to just dive into the wood chipper that's the fucking clench range. How does one defend a ninja choke? Go watch Luis Smolka versus I forget who, but someone's putting him in one all the time, and you eventually, it's that sacrifice. See guys, they'll literally just throw themselves onto their back, and they'll stop what they're doing, and they'll take like a side control. That's literally it. And then sometimes you can still get tapped that way. Maybe it was Smolka who got tapped because someone like kept a lock in on it and punched through with their fists. It's okay, Benj man, drink your waters, Benj boy. Jim Karasu, yam bags. I remember Lou Betya said that. What does that mean exactly? Well, I think yam bags paints the visual for you, but it's a scrotum shot, which represents a foul. Choose, Parker, choose. That's right. I'm going to choose to push to the rest of this breakdown. Darren Elkins, plus 154, minus 185 for TJ Downtown Brown. Let's see how a sober Downtown Brown works. Props to him for making those decisions. Let's see how it affects his fighting style here. If he can get past Darren Elkins at this stage. I didn't look to this one too much, but this screams like it's dog or pass. Even if you do see me pick Brown, know that this is dog or pass, okay? Know that this is not saying you should play Darren Elkins. I'm just saying this is not a fight I would want to get involved with. Ravena Oliveira, plus 260. Tainara Lisboa, minus 325. Didn't look into this fight. Probably side with Lisboa and stay away from the big favorite there. M'Kinney-Marotte, plus 400, stepping in short notice to face Terrence McKinney. It feels like Terrence McKinney always gets these short notice, minus 135. Obviously, it's either pick Terrence first round or you should sprinkle on his opponent because I'm sure you'll get a big number in round 2 just for funsies. But I haven't looked into it, so I'm not going to tell you to do either or. I will probably be picking McKinney and staying away. As well as be staying away from the next fight, Arita Alekseeva, plus 124. Got to go relook her. I believe she's from Contender Series. Melissa Dixon, I do not know. Maybe she also is from Contender Series. Doesn't ring a bell with me. Minus 148. I have no clue on this one. Check me at Dan Tom MMA and the artist formerly known as X on Fight Day to see what my picks are. But this is definitely another one of those fight picks where you should not take too seriously and be investing your money in. And taking my opinion or pick too seriously, or investing your money in, I should say. Chris Gutierrez also loses his fight, minus 285 against Montel Jackson the other week. Gets a replacement, Alatong Heili, Plus 230. I feel like this fight already happened. No, who the hell did Chris Gutierrez fight? It's going to make me sound really racist when I read who it was. Dan, you mix those guys up? It's going to be one of those things to watch, but I will look it up. Obviously, I'm going to be picking Chris Gutierrez here, even though Alekseeva-Dixon's really tough. He even impressed me in a loss in that fight with Casey Kenny. Took like a ridiculous amount of body kicks. Bakary is who he fought. Wow, Dan, that's really racist. He did not fight Alekseeva-Dixon. I will take Chris Gutierrez here. That's cool. At least Factory X has a little bit of spacing between him and Jonathan Martinez. So hopefully neither of those fighters are negatively affected by the walkout. I hate when that happens to the corners. Always very sympathetic of that. Lastly, but not leastly, Emily-Ducote minus 375. Ashley Yoder plus 295. This is the one southpaw I didn't look into because Yoder is a southpaw. Let's see what southpaws Ducote has fought. Sorry, Benjamin's crying over there for water. He's got water. He just cries in the bowl. Wants me to give it to him. Nope. Not in the UFC. Alicia Zapatella. I don't know if she was a southpaw, but she never fought in the UFC. Daniel Teller did fight in the UFC, but she was not a southpaw. Kaneko-Marotte. Oh, she lost a split to her, huh? Was Kaneko a southpaw? I can't even remember now. God damn it. I know we just saw her fight. I'll have to double check that and rewatch that fight. A lot of Bellator fighters there. None of them are even southpaws. Emily Whitmer, not a southpaw. Yeah. Not that it matters because I'm picking Ducote anyways. And she's got a good head kick, so that'll only come to life in the open stance. If Jennifer Maia is too much out of your price range, you could parlay her with Ducote, and that equals like plus 110 or so in that neighborhood. You'll get plus money for that. Outside of that, I didn't look into Chris Gutierrez. That's another big favorite, granted there, but like you could parlay Chris Gutierrez in there maybe instead of Ducote. I wouldn't say instead of Maia, because then you probably would need a third leg between Ducote and Gutierrez to get some plus money. Maybe McKinney at that point. I don't know. I would stay away from Lisboa. Even if I pick Paeta, I would stay away from that. Chairez, even if I pick him, I would stay away from that. I'd say you're better off using like more sneaky favorites, like sneaky low price favorites to lower your price, like a Jennifer Maia or even a Christian Rodriguez before I would trust most of those big numbers, to be honest, minus Chris Gutierrez, obviously, if you want to work him in there. I wouldn't necessarily hate that, although, again, I admittedly did not watch the tape on pretty much any of the prelims. But I did watch tape on majority of the main card and let you know where I was going. I'll recap my plays, leans, what I may be going on, and what I'm picking / leaning toward as of right now. Going to clean up the chat first. How did we do on time? 137, not bad, normal, I guess. Not great, but normal. Rain Lamina, are you confused as I am not knowing most of the matchups in the prelims? Okay, I feel a lot less better for not doing it. But yeah, they don't really interest me anyways from a fan perspective or a betting perspective. And again, I'm not really paid to break those down. It's all extra bonus here. I try to do it for you guys, but cannot. Rain Lamina, Melissa Dixon Cider is the nickname, by the way. What do you think of that? I was like, Cider House. Is she a fan of Cider House Rules? A little bit of Michael Caine. Speaking of Dark Knight Rises, he had Michael Caine. Oh, right, a lot of Michael Caine there. Did you see me in Cider House Rules? What I didn't like about Cider House Rules is they cut out my love scene with Haley Joel Osment. Dan, do you really have to make every actor into like a pedophile? I'm sorry. Michael Caine's got some real pedophilic vibes. You see him in The Illusion, or well, no, not The Illusion. What was it? The Prestige. Oh, got a magic trick for you, right? He just seems like a real pervy dude. Right, dangerous, Davey. Why are you making English dudes pervy, Dan? Come on. Jimmy Kudo. I said this before, but Gutierrez should not have fought Frankie Edgar. It should have been Edgar versus Dom Cruz. Absolutely should have. Jimmy Kudo says, as the fight night main event that everyone would have loved and neither would get hurt. Oh, you fucking nailed it, Jimmy Kudo. I'm 100% with you. I've been calling for that matchup since 2015 because that was my bold prediction for 2016 that we were going to get that matchup. Unfortunately, we didn't. And they had 6 to 7 years to do it. They did not. Those bastards. Jin Karasu, Kanako is a southpaw. All right, okay, well, she is 0-1 to UFC level southpaws. Then I'm going to have to run that through the comb. James Kendrick, that Michael Caine is great. Oh, the impression, not the actor. Thank you. Oh, Michael Caine. Children of Men, how about that? Tell me he's not the biggest pedophile. That whole movie is based around, he's like, there's only one child left. He's like, we got to protect it. We got to have that baby. Like, easy, Michael Caine. Fucking chill, all right? It's like we're in a dystopia here. You're worried about children. All right, enough of that, me polluting your minds of Michael Caine. We're going to recap our picks for UFC Fight Night 230, UFC Vegas 81. Taking Yusuff over Barboza. Hearts with Barboza. Dogger pass. In my opinion. Best of luck if you got a good price on Yusuff. Taking Maia over Arauuuuuuujo. Don't blame you if you're saying dogger pass, but I did not feel that way. I actually got involved with the favorite. We'll talk about that in the plays recap. Taking vote for Pedro. Jonathan Martinez over Adrian Yanez. We'll see who I take versus Pereira versus Petroski. We'll see where I go there. Stay tuned. It's probably dogger pass even if I take Michel. But Michel. This is my consigliere, Michel. Nobody makes me bleed my own blood. Taking Rodriguez over Saaiman, brah. Saaiman. South Africa. Taking, well, we'll see. I'm leaning toward, again, Lacerda over Chairez, but check it. It's probably dogger pass regardless. See where I fish on fight day at Downtown MMA. Leaning toward Brown over Elkins, but it's definitely dogger pass. May end up picking Elkins. We'll see. Probably end up picking Lisboa over Oliveira, but don't care. Stay the F away. Probably pick McKinney over Marotte, but priced out. Don't care. We'll probably stay away. Don't know about Dixon or Alekseeva. Check me on fight day. Probably taking Gutierrez over Alekseeva-Heili. And we'll be taking Ducote over Yoder. Don't blame you parlaying up any of those last two. No official parlays on the books as of right now. But I do have Maia minus 145, 1.5 units. Maia quarter unit. Let me write that down. Maia KO plus 1600 quarter unit. May also throw that in the round robin if there's lack of plays. Yusuff Barboza under 3.5 rounds. Minus 150, 1.5 unit. And then I'm going to add it here because I did it on the show. I added Barboza. Round 4 KO plus 1800. 0.17 U. Round 5 KO plus 2500. 0.17 U for potential cleanup crew. Nothing else official yet. May also add Yusuff by KO to get some extended coverage. Perhaps added bonus with the under. Or in case he's the one that gets a late KO, right? We want to finish there. Maybe there's Yusuff KO. Maybe there's Maia KO, right? Maybe there's Martinez KO. Will we have to go an all KO prop? I don't know because, boy, part of me would love to just throw like a Petroski by sub on there, right? If I end up with Petroski, don't be surprised. I would probably kick for coverage with the money line. Maybe throw him by sub. If I don't end up with him, maybe I still end up throwing something Petroski on the round robin, even if the official fixed Pereira, and then on my if I let my counter, that it gives me great lines, which is why I go there. They allow me to parlay totals, etc. Which is why I go there. The only thing that's crappy about them is that they make me only parlay. Well, I can only parlay underdogs, right? And in that case, whether I pick Petroski or not, he's going to be on there. Whether I pick Lacerda or not, he's going to be on that round robin. But in the official round robin, especially if I pick him, much less if I don't, and maybe I'm drawing at straws. I mean, to kick for coverage and to put a Lacerda or a Petroski on there in the small cage, in that chaos. I mean, you could do worse. Darren Elkins, I got to look into that. I may not pick Darren Elkins. It's not even that juicy of a plus number, to be honest, so I'm not really attractive. Then you'd have to be going to choose partner. Does Darren Elkins get it done by decision or inside? And you're really down a rabbit hole at that point. And again, McKinney, I feel like I'm priced out of there, so unless I'm trying to go contrarian and play Marotte, or maybe, Ducote by KO, someone I respect may or may not be taking that for their prop squad. I still got to figure out my prop squad hit. So yeah, I mean, so I still got to figure out that as well. So I know not too much I'm giving you guys, just pretty much Maia KO, total in the main, under 3.5 in the main, Barboza round 4, round 5, and that's it. That's all I really got. This isn't really a card that is really too attractive to me, but I will give you guys what I got. So follow me on the Action app, Dan Tom MMA. Follow me on Twitter, the artist formerly known as Twitter. At Dan Tom MMA. Follow me on Instagram. I'm trying to build that up at Dan Tom MMA. Also, keep an eye out for my Sphere interview or review. I'm going to put that up. I'm also going to try to make like a TikTok version of it, which means I'm actually going to have to make a TikTok, and I just downloaded Threads too. I know, fucking stupid. I don't have time for this shit. Why am I doing it? But I fucking hate X and so much and what's been going on there. It's just fucking ridiculous. So not going to mess with it too much. So yep, I'm gonna clean up the chat and get out of here. Hey, I got the dodgeball reference, Jim Carrassi. That's right, that was dodgeball. Jack Slap Time Can. Very nice of you to always have recaps of your picks. Thank you, and I thank you for helping me provide the recaps to the people. To the people! Give back to the people! Yes! Venus Rises! What version of The Dark Knight did you watch, Dan? James Kendrick, my favorite impression is of Ian Carey, where you say you're not here to be Irish, or you're here to be... I'm not here to take part, I'm here to be Brazilian. Ian Carey. Yeah, we'll see what happens with him. I actually do think he's got some skill, though, so it's not quite the Grant Dawson mold there. Thomas Kane, no props for McKinney fight on FD. Let's go round 2, bro. What are they giving for McKinney round 2? I feel like they got it priced out. And I don't know enough about Marotte. I got to see if Marotte is tough enough to go round 2, you know what I'm saying? Maybe there's a juicy odd for, like, fight ends in round 2. Yeah, I'm not seeing what they're offering. It's not listing anything as of yet. That's a newer fight on the board, unfortunately. Thank you for chiming in there, Thomas Kane, who also adds Yoder-Ducote KO is deaf. I think he's deaf on that. Yeah, maybe I may tail that too, my friends. So do not be surprised. Whatever you're on, good luck. Thank you, guys. Smash that like button. Share this out. Positive ratings and reviews on iTunes. I really could use it. I'm going to read them next time as well with the Amazon reads. Sorry I didn't get the Amazon reads this time, folks. I will get that for whoever requested that this next time as well with the iTunes. So if you want to be a part of that, just go to mixedmartialanalyst.com to support this show to get your name read off. Go to mixedmartialanalyst.com, my site, the site that supports this show, the Protect Your Neck podcast. Scroll down, toggle, just look to the right, especially from the mobile, and you can see the on it. And Amazon, click through banners. If you shop at either of those places, you just click through, especially if you click through the Amazon one. It won't tell me who you are. If you want to do a David Carradine one night in Bangkok, buy your vibrating nunchucks, no one's going to out you here. This is a judgment-free zone, and I wouldn't know who you are even if I wanted to judge. But what it will tell me is what was bought in support of this year program, and I will read that off in a comical way as I pontificate on your purchases without knowing who the you is, as you get to support this show for free. Or if you just want to support it straight up because it is a free show, $1, anything helps. You go to paypal.com, Dan Tom MMA, of course, mixedmartialanalyst.com has a secure PayPal link right above the aforementioned click-through banners for Honest and Amazon. Or you can follow me again at Dan Tom MMA, add the underscores if you're on Instagram trying to build that up. In my link tree, of course, there are secure PayPal links there. You can follow the podcast at the PYN Podcast on all social platforms. Again, iTunes, ratings and reviews helps the most. Like this video. Add some nice comments. Even if they're not nice, whatever, it still helps. Not that I encourage that, but you are still helping for what it's worth. So might as well just say something nice and not be an asshole. Appreciate you guys, the likes, the shares, the support. Keep it up. Keep vocal. I will share you if you tag me or the podcast if I can from both accounts. If I can, I will get to you if I can, as much as I can. I love you guys. Good luck on your picks and plays. And always protect your neck.